continue with this segment. My bad for the technical difficulties. I was not expecting that at all. And so, but aside from that, we have this incident surrounding Jontay Porter and this, obviously this incident, it's not something that is new to anybody about how Jontay, he recently, well, not recently, but during the NBA season, he was banned for life in, an attempt to try to, he was gambling on several different, well, not on several different accounts, but he was gambling on some of his games. And two of those games in particular were the reasons why he was prosecuted and the reasons why he was banned for life from the NBA. But it turns out that it is, a much, it's much more than just him gambling on his games. It was a whole, it was, excuse me, it was a whole operation where it wasn't just one person involved. And we knew about another person that was recently just arrested in New York, as I alluded to in a previous podcast, but we didn't know how many other people were involved. And it turns out now we have three. The number has been confirmed to be three as of right now, because three Americans, they were recently charged with NBA sports betting fraud. So here's what the article says. U.S. authorities have charged three individuals with conspiring with an NBA player to rig basketball games, New York prosecutors said on Thursday. In April, the NBA banned the Raptors forward Jontay Porter for life after a bombshell probe found he bet on league matches. Porter's name is redacted in the indictment by Brooklyn federal prosecutors, but game dates and other details in the document match up with Porter. Now, according to the indictment, Timothy McCormack, Mahmoud Molla, and Long Fi Pham, also known as Bruce, as I mentioned in the previous podcast. And we know that Bruce was, in talks between him and Jontay Porter about this entire situation. So definitely is Jontay Porter involved in the indictment. Now, it says here that they knowingly and intentionally conspired to devise a scheme and artifice to defraud an online sports betting company. Now, according to the investigators, McCormack won $44,000 thanks to his bets, while Mola almost got over $1.2 million in his bets. Those two are accused of getting Porter to leave two games for medical reasons after a few minutes of play so they could bet against him. Alerted by online betting companies, the FBI began an investigation. McCormack and Mola were charged on Thursday and released on bail, while Pham was arrested on Monday at JFK's airport before he could board a one-way flight to Australia. The NBA accuses Porter, younger brother of Denver Nuggets star Michael Porter Jr. Okay, I guess they felt like they needed to put that in there, of placing at least 13 bets on NBA games from January through March of this year while traveling with either the Raptors or their G League affiliate Raptors 905. NBA players are forbidden from wagering on NBA games under league rules. Those found to have gambled on NBA games risk a fine, suspension, or life ban from the sport. So it was so that's the biggest reason why he was banned from the NBA. Now it seems more like a criminal accusation as opposed to just, not being able to gamble on yourself, because that's sort of like, there's a fine line with gambling and with sports athletes. In all of the sports, not a single athlete is allowed to gamble on any of the games. And if you're found gambling, again, you could be hit with a huge suspension, whether it be indefinite, whether it be for a year, or whether it be for life, as Porter has been found. Now I sort of see why it was for life, because it seems like it was a scandal that's a lot bigger than just gambling on certain games and throwing in certain games, if you will, because that's really the biggest fear and why a lot of athletes aren't allowed to gamble, because then there's the thought, oh, if he gambles, then maybe he's throwing some of the games on purpose just so he can make money. And that's always like a big fear. That's why it's advised for a lot of players to avoid doing that kind of thing. And that's why a lot of leagues try to avoid having players from doing that kind of thing, because it's just not good for the sport. Now it just seems like something completely bigger, talking about defrauding an entire sports betting organization. That's a lot to take in, and obviously you wouldn't be able to do that unless you had somebody who was inside of the operation. So it's a really, really big deal. And looking at the rest of the article, there is nothing more important than protecting the integrity of NBA competition for our fans, our teams, and everyone associated with our sport, which is why Jontay Porter's blatant violation of our gaming rules are being met with the most severe punishment. This is what NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said on April, announcing his ban. A majority of U.S. states have legalized sports betting since a Supreme Court decision in 2018, but this is just completely different than just regular sports betting. This is like a very, very big deal. I mean, having a bunch of literally, like, in my opinion, they're just random people having inside information on a player's, health and well-being, and using that to their advantage. It's a serious problem. Like, it is a very, very big problem for the league to have, and it's something that cannot be repeated whatsoever, because, like, I mean, this is just whole other levels of defrauding. I mean, using the information that you solely have and placing those bets in on those live games. It's like the possibility of those bets even hitting were far few and in between, yet they were able to hit because they just knew that Jontay Porter wasn't going to be playing. So every single time there was a sports bet on him, they would take the under. And, well, not every single time, but in the 2 games that the NBA investigated, they would take the under, knowing that Jontay wasn't going to be playing in that game. And it's like, how did they know that? How did they know this information? Like, think of the amount of money. If they didn't act, think of the amount of money they could have made just off of betting on these games and just taking the under on Jontay Porter. Like, it's a lot of money that can be made, because taking the under on everything in a parlay, I'm assuming that that's what happened, because that you make a lot of money when doing parlays. So if they take a huge parlay on Jontay not winning or not playing in a certain amount of minutes, or not getting a specific amount of stats, like reaching the over or reaching the under, like, that's a very big deal. And this type of information, it should not be, I don't know why that's not working, but it should not be repeated on in any other sports with any other team, none of that. Now, that's basically like the update that we have. So now we have 3 more people involved aside from Jontay Porter, and one of them was arrested. Now we need to see what is going to happen with the other 3. They got released on bail. I have no idea what's going to happen, whether or not they're what kind of legal action is going to be taking place. That's basically all I have for that second segment. Just, a little update on the situation. So for the third segment, we are going to talk about NBA expansion. It could come from outside of the USA. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about that, because Adam Silver sort of alluded to that before, game 1 started. So I will be right back after this short break. Be sure to stay tuned.
Looking for your daily fix of sports talk without having to pay for it? GSMC Sports Network is available on YouTube. Just search GSMC Sports Network. Get your fix of daily sports talk shows on YouTube, absolutely free. NFL, college football, NBA, MLB, MMA, UFC, fantasy football, and so much more. GSMC Sports Network has shows running all day long, with new sports shows starting every 2 hours. Just like on your favorite cable sports channel, except GSMC Sports Network is absolutely free. Just search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube to catch one of your new favorite shows, like the GSMC College Football Podcast, Chip Shot Football Podcast, Hoops and Heels Women's Sports Podcast, GSMC Basketball Podcast, and so many more. Check it out for yourself. GSMC Sports Network, now available on YouTube absolutely free. Search GSMC Sports Network on YouTube right now.